Welcome back to the deep dive. You know the drill. You send us stuff you're curious about, we dig in and pull out the key takeaways.
Yeah, helping you get up to speed without getting overwhelmed.
And this time, we got some great material from a listener excerpts from Black Belt Judo Skills and Techniques. So judo's our focus today.
Judo, right, a fascinating topic.
It really is. Now, I think for a lot of us, judo means, those amazing throws, maybe some groundwork.
Sure, the spectacular about.
But based on this material, we're aiming a bit deeper. We want to unpack the core ideas, the philosophy behind it, the whole picture of judo, and why it's still so relevant.
Sounds good, a worthwhile mission. Okay, so let's jump in. Where does judo come from?
Good starting point.
Well, our sources point to 1882, Tokyo, Japan. That's when Jigoro Kano founded it at the Kodokan.
The Kodokan, that's like the original judo school, right? Still central today.
Exactly, it's the birthplace. And 1882, yeah, that gives it some real history.
And Kano, he didn't just invent this out of thin air, did he? He had a martial arts background.
Oh, definitely. He was deeply studied in different Shinyo-ryu styles of jujutsu.
Kutsu.
So his goal wasn't just new, it was also about preserving the useful parts of those older fighting arts. But critically, he wanted to adapt them.
Adapt them how?
To make them safer, more effective, and, suitable for modern life and education.
Safety.
Yeah.
That seems like a big difference compared to some of the maybe rougher, older jiu-jitsu forms.
It was a huge consideration. Actually, early on, it was even called Kano-ryu Jiu-Jitsu.
Really? Okay.
But a key innovation was developing randori.
That's free practice.
Yeah, free practice.
Yeah.
And shi.
Competition.
Right. These were ways to safely test your skills, build that fighting spirit without the extreme risks of some traditional methods. Kind of a controlled environment.
Like a martial arts lab, almost,
Yeah.
for testing things out.
That's a great analogy. And they formalized it pretty early, too, with the first red and white tournament at the Kodokan.
A tournament, okay.
And another big step was getting judo into Japan's public school system. That showed its value went beyond just fighting.
Wow, into schools early on. That speaks volumes about Kano's vision.
It really does. Kano himself was, well, a major figure. They call him the father of sport in Japan.
Father of sport.
Yeah, and he was involved in educational reform, even sat on the International Olympic Committee. He was thinking globally from early on.
IOC member. Okay, so he had big plans for judo's reach.
Absolutely. And, well, it worked. Judo's global spread is quite something. The International Judo Federation, the IJF, formed in 1951.
51.
And then the big one, becoming an Olympic sport in 1964.
64 in Tokyo, wasn't it? Still a core Olympic sport.
It is. Although, interestingly, the first World Championships were even earlier, 1956.
Before the Olympics.
Yep. And today, the numbers are just huge. 202 National Olympic Committees involved, 182 National Judo Federations affiliated,
Wow.
and medal winners from over 45 different countries. 31 of those nations have Olympic or World Championship golds. It's truly global now.
From one school in Tokyo. That's quite an expansion. Okay, so we got the history. But what about the ideas driving judo, the philosophy?
Right, this is where it gets really interesting. Beyond just the physical moves, it's built on two core principles. The first one is Suryoku Zenyo.
Suryoku Zenyo. Okay, what does that translate to?
Maximum effect with minimum effort. Or maximum efficiency, you could say.
A minimum effort.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean being lazy, though, right?
Not at all. It's about using technique, timing, and leverage efficiently, rather than just muscle power, getting the biggest result for the energy you invest.
So smart force application, not just brute strength.
Exactly. Think about it like finding the most direct path, the cleverest solution, not just throwing power at a problem. Judo trains that mindset.
I can see how that applies way beyond the mat. What's the second principle?
The second is jida kyue,
JTQA.
mutual welfare and benefit. This one's about community, about interconnectedness. It suggests that your own self-development in judo should also contribute something positive to the world around you. Mutual prosperity for you and others.
So it's not just about you becoming a better fighter, but about contributing positively.
Precisely. It really emphasizes trust and care for your training partners. You need them to practice safely and improve, and they need you. Your progress is tied together.
That mutual respect seems woven into the fabric of judo.
It really is. And the source material stresses that judo isn't just memorizing techniques, it's a path of self-discovery.
The do in judo, that means way or path, right?
Exactly. It signifies these principles should guide you off the mat, too, in your character, your life.
So discipline learned in the dojo translates outwards.
That's the ideal. It's this constant striving for, well, perfection maybe isn't the right word, but continuous improvement as a whole person.
Right.
Even facing adversity in training, like getting thrown or feeling exhausted, that's seen as an opportunity to grow, to build resilience.
That's a powerful perspective.
Right.
Okay, so with these principles grounding everything, how are the actual techniques, the waza, organized?
Right, the waza. They fall into three broad categories. First, and probably most famous, are the throwing techniques, najawaza.
Yeah, the dynamic throws. That's what comes to mind first for many people.
Definitely. The Kodokan officially lists 67 basic throws.
67.
Yeah, quite a few. And they're grouped. You have standing techniques, tachiwaza, that includes hip throws, koshiwaza, hand and arm throws, tewaza, and foot and leg throws, ashiwaza.
Okay, different ways to use the body from a standing position.
Then you have sacrifice techniques, sutemiwaza. That's where you intentionally go down to throw your opponent.
Sacrifice throws. Interesting name.
Yeah, divide it into rear sacrifice,
No.
masutemiwaza, and side sacrifice, yoko sutemiwaza. So yeah, 67 techniques. It gives you a sense of the depth.
That's a lifetime of study right there.
Pretty much. And the book mentions the Gokyo no Waza, the standard syllabus, plus Shinmeisho no Waza, which are newer, officially accepted techniques. Judo keeps evolving.
So it's not static. Okay, throws are category 1. What's next?
Second is grappling techniques, often called katami waza or ne waza when it's on the ground.
Ground techniques, right.
This is all about control leading to a submission. It includes pins, osekomi waza, chokes and strangles, shemi waza, and joint locks, kansetsu wazas.
Now, the joint locks in competition, those are mostly just elbow locks for safety, aren't they?
That's right. While kansetsu waza technically covers any joint, in randori and shiai, it's primarily elbow locks to minimize injury risk. Other locks exist, but are usually practiced more carefully, often in kata.
Got it. And the third category?
The third is striking techniques, atami waza.
Strikes. In judo.
Yep. Arm and hand strikes,
Yeah.
ude 8, foot and knee strikes, ashi 8. But, and this is crucial, these are only for self-defense application. They're strictly forbidden in competition and free practice.
Ah, okay. So they exist within the system, but not for sport use.
Exactly. Safety first in randori and shiai. But the source emphasizes that truly understanding judo means grasping the principles behind all these techniques, not just the motions.
Principles like?
Things like mai, maintaining the right distance, waza itself, correct technique execution, and zanshin, remaining aware and focused even after a technique. These help develop those intuitive responses.
Right, so it becomes almost instinctive. Okay, let's dig into those throws, Najwaza, a bit more. What are the key parts of making a throw work?
Several crucial components. It starts with gripping, kumakata.
Getting a hold?
Yeah, it's about controlling your opponent, pulling them into your zone of strength, creating leverage. The standard grip is often lapel, and sleeve hikai is the pulling hand. Surate the lifting hand. It's that first connection.
Feeling them out, sensing their balance through the grip.
Exactly. Reacting to that tactile feedback. Then comes posture, shisei. You want an upright, natural posture, balanced, head up, feet stable.
Ready to move or defend?
Right. Good posture lets you attack effectively and makes you harder to throw. Head position is key too, helps read their intentions often through their hips.
Hips don't lie, as they say.
Something like that. Third is movement taisabaki and shintai. Shintai is footwork, like sugiyashi, sliding step, for agility and balance. Taisabaki is body turning, body management used for defense and attack setups. Avoiding tension is key.
Staying fluid, light on your feet, able to pivot.
Exactly. Then, maybe the most crucial part, unbalancing, kuzushi.
Kuzushi, breaking their balance.
Yes. Disrupting their center of gravity, making them vulnerable. You can do it directly, push or pull, or indirectly by making them react to a feint. Or even using their own attack momentum against them. That's hanon, no kuzushi, counter-throwing.
The book mentioned thinking the opponent like a box, easy to tip, you push a corner. I like that visual.
It's a good one. Once they're off balance, next is fitting in, tsukuri.
Tsukuri.
This is where you move your body into the best position to execute the throw, taking advantage of the kuzushi you just created. Perfect positioning.
Getting set for the final move.
Right. And that final move is application, cake. The actual execution of the throw needs whole body coordination, and follow-through is important for success and safety.
Okay, kumikata, shisei, taisabaki shintai, kuzushi tsukuri, cake.
Got it. So how do you actually learn all this? It's clearly not just reading about it.
Definitely not. It comes from practice, lots of it, in different forms. One key method is kaika.
Kaita, the prearranged forms.
Exactly. Rehearsed sequences, they preserve techniques and theory, emphasize cooperation, and allow for really detailed study. The book mentions randori no kata, ju no kata, koshiki no kata as examples. Think of it as learning the grammar.
Practicing the building blocks in a controlled way.
Right. But the real engine, according to the source, for developing applicable skill is randori, free practice.
No set moves, just going for it.
Pretty much. Attacking, defending spontaneously against a resisting partner. This is where you really forge skills.
That sounds intense, but essential for learning to react in real time. Absolutely essential. Randori builds quick judgment, poise, confidence, mental sharpness. Kano himself prioritized it. You learn from mistakes, develop intuition.
Any tips for good randori?
The book suggests staying relaxed, attacking freely, finding challenging partners, really focusing on that kuzushi, and aiming for Mizuno Kokoro.
Mizuno Kokoro, mind like water. Calm, adaptable.
Exactly. That mental calmness under pressure is huge. Which leads to another training element, shiai, competition.
Testing skills under pressure.
Right. The book calls it seishin tanren, spiritual forging. The rules are there for safety, but the focus isn't just winning, it's about the effort, the self-improvement, testing yourself.
So competition is another learning tool, not just about trophies.
That's the idea. And there are other drills, too. Uchikomi is repetitive entry practice, just doing a setup for throws over and over. Nachikomi is repeated throwing, focusing on landing safely. Yakusoku Gaiko is like prearranged sparring, specific scenarios.
And none of this works without learning to fall.
Crucial. Ukemi, break falling. It's fundamental for safety and everything else. Plus, general conditioning helps, too. Safety is always paramount.
Okay, so all this training leads to progress, shown by the belt system, right? The colored belt.
Yes, the ranking system. Another Kano innovation, actually, adopted by many other arts since. Different colors mark stages of learning.
And the black belt, Shodan, first degree. That's the ultimate goal, isn't it?
No, yes and no. It's a major milestone, definitely.
Yeah.
But the book really stresses that Shodan means you've got the fundamentals down, you're proficient. It's the start of serious study, not the end.
The beginning, not the graduation.
Exactly. Earning rank isn't just about techniques. It's about hard work, character, maturity, conduct on and off the mat, truly internalizing those principles. It's awarded by your instructor based on all that.
I see. And there are higher belts, too, the red and white ones.
Right. Those are for very high ranks, 6th, 7th, 8th degree black belts. The book pushes back against misconceptions. The black belt isn't about mastery achieved. It's a symbol of continued growth.
A commitment to keep learning. Okay, speaking of application, what about self-defense? Kano came from jiu-jitsu.
Right, a combat art. And Kano actually found that applying sport methods training against full resistance paradoxically made judo more effective as a combat art compared to just theoretical practice.
Interesting. Training for sport made it better for fighting.
In many ways, yes, developing timing, balance, reactions against someone really trying to stop you. But the book acknowledges sport judo rules do limit its scope for pure self-defense.
Because you can't use certain techniques in competition, like strikes or some joint locks, that might be needed in a real situation.
Exactly. That's why those techniques, punches, kicks, non-elbow joint locks, are preserved and practiced in kata.
So kata keeps the broader self-defense arsenal alive.
Correct. And the book notes something interesting. The more dangerous a technique, the more carefully it has to be practiced, often conceptually. But the intense resistant training of sport judo builds the physical attributes, balance, speed, power, timing needed to apply any technique effectively against someone resisting.
So the sport training builds the foundation, even for the non-sport techniques.
That's a good way to put it. And judo isn't just physical, is it? There's a huge mental component.
Absolutely. The source emphasizes developing mind and body together harmoniously. The training itself teaches character.
Like what?
Mental toughness, self-discipline, overcoming obstacles, fatigue, losing fear, building confidence through achieving things you didn't think you could.
Setting goals seems important too.
Yeah, having something to strive for. And that mutual trust with partners creates a supportive environment for facing those challenges. It's about cultivating that calm center, that Mizuno Kokoro or Mushin mind, without thought for effective action.
And didn't the book mention different levels of initiative?
It did. 3 levels of sen.
Yeah.
Do no sen. Countering after they attack. Tai no sen.
Yeah.
Attacking as they attack. Intercepting.
And sensen.
Attacking preemptively before they fully launch.
Understanding timing and initiative, that's advanced stuff.
Definitely adds a strategic layer. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. Maybe we could briefly mention a few specific techniques just to give a flavor.
Sure. The book mentions ukigoshi, floating hip throw. Supposedly Kano's favorite for beginners, emphasizes leverage.
Okay.
Then there's harai goshi, sweeping hip throw. Sioi neige, the shoulder throw, very common in competition.
Yeah, I recognize that one. Looks powerful.
It is. Also, kataguruma, shoulder wheel kano, adapted that from wrestling. A sotogari, large outer reap, a classic leg technique. Tomo neige, the circle throw, that's a sacrifice throw.
And on the ground?
Basic pins like kisagatame, the scarf hold. Chokes like nami-juji jime, normal cross choke always with safety warnings, of course.
Absolutely.
And joint locks like ude hishigi jujigatame, the cross arm lock again, emphasizing the need to tap out safely.
And people don't just use one technique, right? They link them.
Definitely. Combination techniques, renraku waza, flowing from one attack to the next, and counter techniques, kaishi waza, turning their attack against them. Essential for higher level judo.
Makes sense. And finally, just a quick word on competition scoring.
Right. The main goal is ippon, full point. You get that for a clean, powerful throw, landing them flat on their back, or a pin held for 25 seconds usually, or forcing a submission with a choke or arm lock.
One clean score ends it.
Or you can get partial scores like waza ari. There used to be smaller scores too, yuko, koka, though rules evolve. Pins held for shorter times might get partial scores.
And if it's tied?
Often goes to golden score, overtime, first score wins. There are also penalties, shido for minor things, hansoku make for major fouls, which can disqualify you.
Okay, so a clear structure for deciding matches.
Yes, but as we've discussed, the real depth goes way beyond just those competition rules.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a fantastic deep dive, really getting into the layers of judo thanks to that source material. We've covered the origins, the core principles, maximum efficiency, mutual benefit, the techniques, the training, the ranks, self-defense, the mental side, even specific throws and rules.
Yeah, what really stands out is how it all connects. It's not just throwing people, it's a whole system for developing yourself physically and mentally.
A holistic discipline, for sure.
Yeah.
So for everyone listening, here's a thought to take away. Think about those judo principles. Balance, physical and mental. Perseverance through challenges. Mutual respect. How might those apply in your own life, your work, your relationships?
That idea of maximum effect with minimum effort, where else could you apply that? Finding more efficient, more effective ways to approach things.
Exactly. There's a real depth to judo, way more than meets the eye initially. We hope this dive gave you a richer appreciation for it. Thanks for tuning in.